He gave away his last bite of food, expecting nothing in return, until a limousine pulled up the next morning, changing his life forever. The cold wind howled through the empty streets as Jacob pulled his tattered coat tighter around his frail body. The city was never kind to people like him, people who had lost everything. He sat on his usual bench outside a dimly lit diner, watching as well-dressed customers stepped inside, their laughter muffled by the glass doors. Jacob used to be like them once, a man with a job, a home, a future. But life had a cruel way of stripping things away, and now he was just another homeless man the world ignored. He sighed, reaching into the brown paper bag beside him. A single sandwich, a gift from a kind stranger earlier that day. It wasn't much, but it was all he had. As he unwrapped the sandwich, a soft voice interrupted him. "Excuse me, sir." Jacob looked up. A woman stood before him, her clothes old and worn, her face streaked with exhaustion. Her hands trembled as she clutched an empty bag, her eyes darting to his sandwich. I haven't eaten all day," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please, can you spare anything?" Jacob hesitated. It was his only meal, and the hunger in his stomach gnawed at him. But then he looked at her, truly looked at her. She was desperate, just like he had been countless times before. Without a second thought, he tore the sandwich in half and held out a piece. "Here, it's not much, but we can share." Tears welled in the woman's eyes as she took the food. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means to me." Jacob simply nodded, taking a bite of his half. They sat in silence, sharing a meal beneath the cold streetlights, two lost souls finding comfort in each other's presence. Little did Jacob know, the woman sitting beside him wasn't who she appeared to be, and by morning, his life would never be the same. Jacob woke up the next morning to the usual sounds of the city: car horns, hurried footsteps, and distant chatter. He stretched his aching limbs, preparing for another day of survival. But something was different. The familiar sound of luxury car tires rolling over the pavement caught his attention. A sleek black limousine slowed to a stop right in front of him. Jacob furrowed his brow. Cars like that never came to this part of town. The back door opened, and to his shock, the same woman from last night stepped out. Except now she wasn't wearing tattered clothes. She stood before him in an elegant white coat, her hair neatly styled, and her face glowing with confidence. "Jacob," she said, her voice warm but firm. "Get in." Jacob blinked, unsure if he was dreaming. What's going on?" She smiled. "I wasn't completely honest with you last night. My name is Evelyn Carter, and I'm the owner of Carter Industries." His breath caught in his throat. Carter Industries was one of the largest corporations in the city. He had read about her years ago, one of the wealthiest and most influential businesswomen in the country. And yet last night, she had been just a hungry stranger sitting beside him. "I don't understand," Jacob said cautiously. "Why were you—" "I needed to see the world differently," Evelyn interrupted. "I wanted to understand struggle, to step out of my comfortable life. And when I was at my lowest, you were the only one who showed me kindness." Jacob swallowed hard. He wasn't sure what to say. Evelyn took a step closer. "You didn't hesitate to share your last meal with a stranger. That kind of heart is rare, and I believe in rewarding kindness." She gestured toward the limousine. "Come with me, Jacob. Let me change your life the way you changed mine." Jacob looked at the sleek car, then back at the woman who had gone from homeless to powerful in a single night. His heart pounded in his chest. Could he really trust this? Or was it all just another dream waiting to be shattered? Jacob hesitated for a moment, his instincts telling him that things like this didn't happen to people like him. But something in Evelyn's eyes, Genuine gratitude, sincerity, made him take a deep breath and step into the limousine. As the car pulled away from the streets he had called home for years, he couldn't help but feel out of place. The leather seats, the scent of expensive cologne lingering in the air, the quiet hum of luxury. It was all so foreign to him. Evelyn sat across from him, watching his reaction. "I know this must feel overwhelming," she said gently. "But trust me, Jacob, you deserve this." He scoffed. "I don't know what I did to deserve any of this." She smiled. "You showed kindness when you had nothing. That's more valuable than any wealth." The car stopped in front of a towering glass building, Carter Industries headquarters. Jacob's breath caught in his throat as he stared at the massive structure. Security guards opened the doors, bowing slightly as Evelyn stepped out. Jacob followed hesitantly, still trying to process everything. Inside, the marble floors gleamed under golden chandeliers. Employees in sharp suits whispered as they passed, stealing glances at Jacob's worn-out clothes. Evelyn led him into a private office, where a tailored suit was laid out for him. "I want you to work for me, Jacob," she said. "Not out of charity, but because I believe in people like you." Jacob's eyes widened. "Work? For you?" She nodded. "I'm offering you a fresh start, a job, a place to stay, and a chance to rebuild your life." Jacob ran a hand through his unkempt hair, his heart pounding. This wasn't just a warm meal or a ride in a fancy car. This was an opportunity he never thought he'd get. But was he really ready to leave behind the life he'd known? Or was this just another cruel twist of fate, waiting to remind him where he truly belonged? Jacob stood in front of the mirror in the executive office, staring at himself in the crisp, tailored suit. He barely recognized the man looking back at him. Just yesterday, he had been ignored on the streets, surviving on scraps and generosity from strangers. Now, he was being offered a job at one of the largest corporations in the city. Evelyn sat at her desk, watching him with a knowing smile. "You don't have to decide right away," she said softly. "But I want you to know, this isn't a handout. I see something in you, Jacob. You have resilience, intelligence, and most importantly, heart. Those are things money can't buy." Jacob swallowed hard. "I don't know anything about business." "You don't have to, yet," Evelyn assured him. "But I can teach you, and with your determination, I have no doubt you'll thrive." Jacob thought about the years he had spent struggling, how many doors had been slammed in his face. He had always believed that his fate was sealed, that he would never get a real chance. But now, for the first time, someone saw him as more than just a homeless man. Someone believed in him. Taking a deep breath, he turned to Evelyn. "All right," he said, his voice steady. "I'll do it." A slow smile spread across her lips. "Good. Then let's get started." Days turned into weeks, and Jacob proved to be a quick learner. He absorbed everything Evelyn taught him, working harder than anyone else in the company. The whispers and stares from employees slowly faded as he earned their respect. One day, as he sat in a meeting, reviewing reports, Evelyn walked in and placed a document in front of him. "I want you to take on a leadership role, Jacob. I've never met someone more deserving." His hands trembled as he flipped through the papers. It was an official offer, one that would change his life forever. Looking up at Evelyn, he saw the same kindness in her eyes that he had once shown to her when she was just a lost woman in need of help. Life had come full circle, and for the first time in years, Jacob knew. He had finally found his place in the world.